When I think of a man's emotion, I imagine the ocean and how on the surface it might appear to be calm and blue, but underneath there's a lot going on. Let's just say on the surface, pretend everything is okay, pretend that we're strong, but really that's not what's happening.
Hello guys, welcome back to Below the Surface. Oh man, I even forgot the intro we used to have because it's been such a long time, and I think you have also been wondering where we've been. We left y'all last summer with our last video was last summer, and we had one podcast audio there. I kind of feel like I have to explain why we've been missing in action. I think because it just happened so fast. The organization grew a lot last year. The organization was birthed two years ago. And by the organization, I'm talking about Below the Surface. Maybe let me backtrack a little bit to people who are listening to this podcast for the first time. My name is Kudakwashem Shaike. I am the founder of Below the Surface. Below the Surface was founded as an organization that was creating spaces for vulnerability. And while we're doing that, last year, a lot of people joined us on the movement of creating spaces for men for vulnerability. We were celebrating vulnerability at that time because we realized that vulnerability was the only way to get people to open up about the things that they were going through in their lives. We realized there was a gap in society where a lot of men felt like they were on the sidelines of society, where they could not really express what it is they were going through. And because of that, we're seeing a lot of suicides and people struggling with mental health because they really don't have anybody to talk to. We wanted to create a space where people could come in and have a conversation with me about their lives in a way to show that those conversations were possible, but also to celebrate people who were doing that because it was aiding to their lives and to the lives of other people. It also came from a personal need. Growing up, I grew up without a father. My father passed away when I was a year old, and I always felt there was this gap in my life where I felt I needed more men insight. I needed to hear what men had to say about the things I was going through. But it was hard for me to reach out to men because it was weird. No one really did it. No one was out there saying, "Come talk to me about what it is that you're going through." And I didn't want that to see that in the world ever again. I wanted to be the first person that was pushing towards us being able to create spaces for that, and also to normalize it essentially, or show how that was normal essentially. And so when we began that journey last summer, a lot of people joined the team. We created an organization around it. A lot of people joined the team with our community manager, where someone was doing partnerships. But it got overwhelming for me, especially because I wasn't thinking about how this thing would grow so fast. And wasn't thinking about exactly how. Also, another problem that arose was, how do we talk about vulnerability to people that are not exposed to vulnerability at all? It was easy to talk about vulnerability to people who already knew vulnerability, to people that were already practicing vulnerability, and those are a lot of the people that we attracted when we started. A lot of people were just coming because to them it made sense. It made sense why we were talking about celebrating vulnerability. It also made sense on why they should join the movement and why they should continue and being celebrated for being vulnerable, essentially. But it didn't make much sense, and it didn't connect to folks that have been told that vulnerability is just not for men and is weird and is like, why am I doing that, and uncomfortable, which it is. Vulnerability is essentially very uncomfortable. And telling someone, especially someone who has had a negative result of being vulnerable to someone, to tell them to go do it again without really outlining why was very difficult. It was very difficult and didn't make any sense to them. But those are the people that we wanted to talk to. We wanted to talk to people that didn't essentially believe in this whole idea of vulnerability and didn't see the need of vulnerability. And we needed to convince them on why it mattered, which is why I'm back here again. I'm back here again because I had to take some time away to really think of how can we speak to this audience of the people that we really wanted to speak to, and how do we make it accessible? How do we make it make sense? Make it make sense. And so, yeah, that's what I'm here. And in the next couple episodes, I'm going to be trying to make vulnerability make sense. I'm going to be trying to go even beyond and make a claim that vulnerability is freedom, which is our new wave right now, which is the thing that has always been at the core of the work that we're doing. What is at the core of the work that we're doing at Below the Surface is finding freedom. And we realized that the only way to find freedom is through vulnerability. And by freedom, what I essentially mean is the ability to be yourself, to just be you, to show up in any space and not feel like you have to put on a mask. I know we've gotten used to the idea of putting on masks, literally putting on masks, but we've seen how uncomfortable that is, right? After a while, you just want to take it off and be free. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Now imagine that feeling that you feel physically when you take off a mask, an actual mask from your face. Imagine feeling that in all the areas of your life. Imagine feeling that in your emotional well-being. Imagine feeling that in your mental well-being. Imagine feeling that at work. Just imagine that. Imagine how incredible that is. I have felt that. I have felt that in many spaces I've been, spaces that were not meant for me. On my day job, I'm a software engineer in Silicon Valley in San Francisco. It's a very different space. It's not a space that was designed for a person that looks like me. But I've managed to be myself in all those spaces because of this, because I have found that freedom. And that's the freedom that I want to share with y'all on this podcast. That's the freedom that I want to bring to your homes and into your relationships and into your friendships with other people. I want to bring that freedom. And I'm claiming that freedom is only experienced through vulnerability. And I'll spend this couple episodes and videos explaining exactly how that looks and how to actually live according to it. I think a lot of these things are great ideas when they're just thought of as ideas. But when it comes to application, that's a very different story. And it's often very difficult on how do we apply this? How do we apply the concept of vulnerability to our modern day lives? Don't worry. I am going to show you exactly how to do it. And this is what this podcast is about. And this is what this organization is about. This is a podcast that is run by Below the Surface organization, which is an organization that is seeking to celebrate vulnerability and create spaces for vulnerability. And in doing so, celebrating freedom. I hope you join us in this movement. This is me again reintroducing the idea of what we're doing and the work that we're doing, and also reintroducing this podcast to you. If this is your first time listening to this, I hope you return next week when we have our very first episode since coming back. I'm looking forward to talking to you. I'm looking forward to getting to know you. Until next time, it's goodbye for now. Thank you.